Mr. September.
Yes, sir.
Where do we even start?
Yeah, your coffee is probably cold. That's where we're going to start. It's your fault, eh? It's your fault.
It's nice, it's decent. Yeah, please don't break these things. I invested a lot in these cups.
I'm sorry. I won't afford them anyway.
Where did it all start? Kutsomo, etsomo, ngamakwe.
So I'm born in the Eastern Cape, obviously. That's what I know for a fact, geographically. Where exactly, I don't know. But I obviously spent time growing up between Etsomo and Ngamakwe because of Iperenzama from there. Brought up by my great-grandmother, Mam Kiwa, and my grandfather from my paternal side, Eric September. So that's where I was born, in a village, and no water, no electricity really, and enveloped by these hills, which sometimes can envelop our dreams and make us never to see anything beyond them. But I had these two giants, and I stood on their shoulders, which helped me to see probably a bit further than just the hills that were in front of me. Zasetsomo, Zasengamakwe. And so I was quite lucky in the sense that unlike many people that are trapped by lack of opportunities and a lot of lack of development that still stalks the former Transkei, I got a break to go and study in East London very early, which probably was a platform for me to learn new things, to get exposure. Because in life you can only dream and think as far as you've gone sometimes. So that helped me a lot in that sense. But the foundation was standing on the shoulders of my great-grandmother, Mam Kiwa, Mandambo, and my grandfather, Eric September, who were the first two role models that I ever met in my life, not in magazines, but in real life.
Okay, so that's where the Mandambo comes from. Because every time I do a formal something with you, I still have Umandambo at the back of my mind. And then there's September.
So
that makes sense.
No, what happened is this. So it's not like that to go the other side.
Yeah, please explain.
I didn't. Because of just how fond I was of my great-grandmother, Koko, the person who brought me up, a very illiterate woman. In her home, she had a library. It says Lalin. It's a rural village, and there are over 100 houses around, and there is no water, no electricity, and we see probably 2 cars if we are lucky a day. But I think she saw some way, because she was friends with some missionaries around.
And these are not the 50s or the 60s.
No, this is the 80s. And she built, because there's Lani, there are a few houses. She took a 4-corner and converted that 4-corner into a library. Full-on library. There was no other activity that happened there except library. There were shelves. So when I was growing up, I saw shelves, Every time I went to my great-grandmother's house, because I was shuttling around East London, in Ngamakwe, and so there were Shakespeare. I first read about Shakespeare when I was still a kid. So because of of that relationship with my great-grandmother, and because of that influence, I made a promise to her. I said I will not change my surname to my father's surname until you die. So when she passed on, now I had a bit of liberty to do, but I needed to keep my word first. And my word was that I will be Umandambo until that. And also to keep a legacy. We have to keep people's legacies and the role she played in my life. And then obviously, so I see these as part of my identities, Mandambo, September, Sotomela, all these families, and also the families that brought me up, played a role in bringing me up, and Price, Verona Ledin, and Meriwether. So all these are my families, really.
Your fondest memory from back in the day with Ukoko?
She had this favorite saying, ethi mnandiliqaba nje ndizabafundisa bonke abantwana bam. Which loosely translated means, even though I am not educated, I'm not literate, and I have not been exposed, I will ensure that my children, I will open the doors of learning for my children. And I think because she understood the value of education from where I don't know. I think growing up with her and understanding how passionate she was about education, how we can open your doors, and not necessarily just preaching it, and how passionate she was about reading. I was lucky in the sense that I grew up in many different worlds, so I would see poverty. I always hear people saying they didn't know they were poor when they were growing up. Me, trust me, when I was 6, 7, I knew that my great-grandmother was poor. I knew that my grandfather was an entrepreneur, and I knew that if I go to East London, there's the white folks there, have got everything.
Who was staying in East London?
So in East London, obviously I went to school, and also I would spend a lot of time with, I spent a lot of time growing up, as I said, in this, spending a lot of time with and Price, Verona Ledin, and Meriwether. So by the age of 10, I was very much aware and conscious of the world.
Different worlds.
And I understood all these worlds, how they functioned. This helped me very much in my life in the sense that it shaped the way I see the world. And it makes me less judgmental about people, but it also made me to be passionate about changing the world. My great-grandmother lived such a very selfless life, including my grandfather. And they instilled these principles that awuphileli wena. You know, so my great-grandmother used to say, and I will translate it in English, many are called, but very, very, very few are chosen. I didn't understand this many years ago. And she would say, some of you will be chosen for something, and therefore you've got to not put your interests first. And I do suspect this is where I picked up politics as well from her. From the books that she had.
What books come up to mind during those times when you were growing up? Are there any books that you can remember besides the Shakespeare?
So yes, I remember Shakespeare. I remember Xhosa literature, a lot of S.E.K. Mqhayi work. I remember a lot of novels that were there. I can't necessarily remember on top of my head because at that time there was no political literature.
Okay, yeah, it was banned.
There was no political literature. But in East London now at my school, I started to learn a lot about these things.
Okay.
And then my sense of curiosity will always kick in. So both my grandparents, on all sides, they had this profound influence in the way I think, and I think today, shaped the fact that in my life I don't live for myself.
It sounds like umakhulu had a great influence, ukhokho, kuwe. And now I've noticed social media platforms that you still have a great interest in books. Are there any books that you're reading right now that you'd recommend, and what are they about?
So, I mean, books, I said earlier on, you can travel, you can know as far as you have traveled. But books enable you to go to places that you've never necessarily been to. They open your mind. They help your reasoning. You might have this particular belief about something, but the more you read about it, the more it either influences you to build your argument about it, or questions your own belief about a particular subject, which is what books do to me. So, I mean, I've read, in my house in Joburg, I probably have over 2,000 books. In East London, I probably have over 3,000 books. A lot of the books are in my, I are sometimes sitting in the cases and in boxes. I buy more books than I can read. There was a book sale recently at Exclusive Books. I bought 40 books and I thought to myself, why am I buying 40 books for? So, well, no one sees you there. I think also you learn the discipline of doing things, not for anybody else, and I have that. I'm very lucky to do that. So right now, I have 2 books that have really influenced the way I think a lot.
Okay.
One is by Phil Knight. It's Shoe Dog, the guy who founded Nike.
Okay.
He loves the same things I love.
For example?
Innovation, politics, sport.
Okay.
These 3 things shape the way we think, do things. They shape the daily life. They've got so many principles among them. So I'm reading that book, obviously, for the 4th time. 4 is for affirmation.
Okay.
Yeah, I was cramming at first. Then second part was excited. Third time I was like, I need to understand. Now it's like I need to affirm what I know.
Do you take notes? Do you highlight?
I do sometimes. It depends. Depends on the book.
So you're not a book snob like me, where
no, but I think a lot of my friends have built their libraries with my books. I share books. That's one thing. I buy them, but I don't hog. You know, I would like my friends to return my books, so there's not a license for them to keep. And then secondly, I'm reading a book by a guy who was a former Greece finance minister called Yanis Varoufakis. It's a very interesting book. The guy was the finance minister of the EFF of Greece, so to speak. And the book is so interesting in that it talks about the lessons of, it gives profound lessons of ideology, utopia, and reality. So, I mean, by saying that, I'm not being disparaging it anyway. I'm just saying the book, it gives an interesting sense of these guys were like a 6% party in Greece.
Okay.
And this was during the tough times, the EU austerity measures in Greece.
Okay.
And they ran from being a 6% party on a card of, when we get in power, to hell with this bailout, to hell with austerity, to hell with EU. And the worst thing happened to them. They won the elections. And now when you're winning elections, the following day it's like, oops.
Why do you say the worst thing? I mean, any party that's in the running would want to win.
So if you're promising people,
thing.
if you're promising people all these things, I don't necessarily want to call it voodoo economics. Let's just call it whatever it is. Let me say socialism. If you are running on a socialist card, this is what I will do and all those other things. You must hope you don't win. Because if you win, your promises are going to be tested. Now, these guys, it's a very thick book. It's this thick. Now, all of a sudden, now, you've got to deliver on these promises. You said to hell with EU. Well, EU is still here. You said austerity, we want cake. So the book is a very interesting book in the sense that, I mean, as somebody, I'm very passionate about leadership. I'm very interested in the subject of leadership. I read about many leaders. Great leaders I like, people I can't stand. I read about Stalin, and I don't necessarily like Stalin. I read about everyone. Because I need to understand the thinking of leaders. But also a book like that gives me a nice reality of, you come with all good intentions, but you realize that the reality is different. It's a different ball game altogether, and you need to adjust. Now there is a nice mixture of reality and pragmatism vis-a-vis what you really, really want to achieve. So it's a very fascinating book, but it's a very long read.
Where would you place yourself in these ideals and ideologies when it comes to economics? There's socialism, there's communism, there's capitalism. Because I would assume that these guys were probably socialist, communist type of
socialist, yes,
guys,
yes,
right? And it didn't work. But we can't really say that socialism hasn't worked anyway. Where would you place yourself? I mean, I can bring up my favorite African, Thomas Sankara.
Yes.
It worked in Burkina Faso.
Yes, but you see,
let's not argue about that.
Yes.
Where do you place yourself?
I think, by the way, I admire Thomas Sankara. He's an amazing guy. I think ahead of his time, robbed of a great soul. I think for me, because I'm very interested about this subject of leadership, I know that where we are as a country and as a continent is a very bad place. But the problem we've done as Africans, we have adopted all these isms that we don't even understand. We haven't asked ourselves, what is good for African people? What functions in our society as African people? The Asians seem to have found a balance with this with the Chinese. We might criticize them. What the West has done is that for 350 years, they have developed all these systems in a trial and error system. And they've kind of found what works for them, and they call it a name. They call it democracy. And then they take it from the West and say, in Ghana, use it. In South Africa, use it. In Botswana, use it. In Ouagadougou, use it. In Iraq, go and use it. They don't actually understand the environment. So I think I think as Africans, for me, traveling the continent and the world, I've come to realize there are examples like Rwanda, whereby you don't necessarily have to call it an ism.
Okay.
You don't need to call it I'm a socialist as Paul Kagame. I think there is something which would be close to what we call benevolent dictatorship. Not necessarily dictatorship, but the leader who comes in there and say, this is where we should be going. In this country, we've tried to adopt all this so-called democracy, and there's anarchy. Everyone believes they can do whatever they like because there's freedom of speech, there's freedom of doing whatever, there's freedom of whatever. Now, we have imposed Western values without understanding our own society, because as Africans, we don't know who we are.
You sound like a guy who's really into leadership, mentorship, and I also found out that you have a foundation. I don't know if
I don't call it a foundation. No, I don't call it a foundation.
uLwaziKnowledge. What is it?
It's a movement.
Okay.
It's born out of necessity. What happened is that I was doing grade 12 in East London. So in June, I happened to go to a Transkei, because that's where I come from, the former Transkei, I mean. And when I get there, I go to a winter school out of curiosity. We had finished our syllabus and we were done with everything. So when I get there, I mix with some students. First day, first hour. And I'm like, yo, good luck. They are not going to succeed in life. They'll be lucky to pass this matric.
What made you
the level is so low. It's not their fault. They're not stupid.
Level of what?
So the level of what, the quality of what they have been taught is very low. Some of them actually even understand, they understand stuff, but they actually don't understand the question. So the literacy is low. And I'm not mean English by this. I mean just in general, the understanding. Because to do that, you need to develop people, the thinking, the understanding, even in your mother tongue. So we needed to give people confidence. There was a lack of confidence. There was a confidence deficit. And I realized, as a grade 12 learner, that something needed to be done. But I couldn't do it then. So I had to wait for a few years. And then informally, we started this movement by going to schools, not talking. Everyone wants to go to school, stand in front of an assembly, give a motivational speech, and go home. Clap, your job is done. No. We need to instill confidence in our people, young people, so they believe in their own ideas. When you believe in your own ideas, you are able to implement things. You do things with understanding who you are and the environment around you. So with uLwazi, which means knowledge, the thirst for knowledge, because with knowledge, you can prepare people for opportunities. That's what we want to do, to give people a platform whereby they will gain this knowledge, the confidence that prepares them for opportunities. So we are unapologetic about our bias towards rural schools. And another thing is because I was just lucky. I don't live for myself. I live for the society, the needs of the society.
Why that need to extend your Ubuntu bako to abanye abantu?
It's got nothing to do with Ubuntu.
Okay.
I don't even think we understand this concept of Ubuntu as African people now as what it was before. And I won't bore you with that. I think every generation must have people who decide that they are not necessarily going to live for themselves. That their cause and their being and their breath is not necessarily just going to be for themselves and for their immediate family and for their community. It's going to be for something bigger than that. And there's nothing wrong with living for yourself. Absolutely nothing wrong. And I think many people, and it's perfectly fine. 99% of us live for ourselves and for our families, to provide for our families.
So, in simple, practical ways, uLwazi comes to my school,
Yes.
What do you do?
So, first of all, we want to open, we actually have reading clubs, we have book clubs every week.
Okay.
So these book clubs, we don't just give people books and whatever it is. We've realized that the kids sometimes don't necessarily have people, these extramurals are not extramurals, whereby they come and just read novels, read stuff. So these books, we get books everywhere, sponsored books. We buy books ourselves. And every Saturday, they come to a certain place if you're a member of this. We've got about 300 signed up members in Mdantsane alone.
Nice.
Who come as members, borrow books, stay there for the whole day. You can do your homeworks there. You can get assistance with tutorials and so forth. It's a practical way. You come there, it's a safe space, because on Saturdays, what do really a lot of people do? We've just formed a partnership now. Mdantsane, we're going to announce very soon about a facility we're going to use, and I'm so excited about what it can do to make the place a bit bigger, because now we've got space challenges and money, of course, because for the longest period we were running it from our pockets. We need the sponsors, people to come in. Another problem is that in the black community, if they are good dini, $500, my friend. Dini. The black people, the only time we give is when we give in church. Everywhere else, icon, we don't. There's nothing we do to invest, not necessarily in myself, but in others around us, and respond to the needs of our society. This is not an indictment, because I understand there are many other challenges in our society. So that's what uLwazi is about. It's a platform that gives confidence to people to think differently and to know who they are.
Why the need for this? Maybe this might sound like an ignorant question. Why, where not did you feel like you have to do this? Abantu are so centered these days. If Umdu has achieved and has acquired things, materials for himself, for his family, that's it. Why the need to give back, so to speak?
I'm not giving back. Many are called, few are chosen. But to whom much is given, much is expected, right? Your shoulders must be so broad to understand that my ideas can't just be about solving what's in front of me now, and the now, so to speak. It must be a broader, it must address a broader societal cause.
Inspiration, motivation, and motivating seems to be a big part of your life, and you sound like a motivated person.
Yeah, but Muhammad Ali, my friend, you know, one of the people that inspires me, Muhammad Ali, Steve Biko, Robert Sobuku, I read about these people. They don't tell us our heroes most, ne? So we have to go and research about our heroes. But when you find out a lot about our heroes, you realize they had this common thing about themselves. They had this knowledge about who they are. The confidence came from who they are. In life, you must change what frustrates you the most, I think.
What was that for you?
Ignorance. Lack of confidence.